every view has hundreds of data points on all kinds of different things underneath. How do we create a data stack using that proprietary database that we've got? How do we learn from those and see the trends on algorithms, see what's changing on platforms in real time?
And is that's your proprietary tool? Do you license that out to anybody?
No,
or no?
We don't. We like to keep that one to ourselves.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah.
Creators, 5 out of 10 say that they have felt burnout whilst being a creator, and incredibly 4 out of 10 creators have felt burnout to the point where they considered stopping. 95% of influencers and creators that we have at Komi have used our wellbeing officer.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to this week's TellyCast. On this week's show, we're diving into the creator economy with someone right at the sharp end of the business. Andrew Trotman is the CEO and founder of Komi Group, one of the most interesting companies helping social video creators scale their businesses and build brands that last. From brand deals and merch to product launches and creator-led businesses, Andrew's got a front row seat to what's really working in social video right now. We're talking about how to turn creators into £1 million brands, how to manage the pressure that comes with life in the social spotlight, and where the biggest opportunities lie in the fast evolving digital landscape. It's all coming up on TellyCast, the podcast for TV and digital content professionals. Hey Andrew, how you doing?
Hi there, Justin, nice to meet you.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming down from, well, your business is in Manchester, but you live in Leeds, don't you?
I do indeed. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. So let's talk about Komi Group. You founded the business. Tell us when and how it's evolved over time.
Yeah. So I founded Komi in 2016. But I guess my light bulb moment for why I should do that was a couple of years previously. And I launched a business quite randomly. It was in horse racing. I became one of the UK's most followed horse racing tipsters, despite knowing nothing about horse racing.
Really?
It was I'm a massive data guy and obsessing over the data and working out how things work to find solutions. And I created a system which allowed me to beat bookmakers from horse racing. It was all about leveraging overpriced horses in the market, betting on them, and then over a long period of time, being able to generate a very healthy return. And having done this for myself for a few years, the bookmakers started to catch on to what I was doing.
When you were walking about out of the bookies with sacks of cash.
Well, yeah, very much so. And this was at uni as well. All my friends were looking at me thinking, why is that guy always in the bookies? And what's he doing online with this bookmaker thing? But I don't know how much detail you want me to go into that. But the general rule being that if you imagine roulette, and if I said to you, instead of having 50-50 odds of red, black in your return, if I said, well, I'll give you 5-1 if it lands on red and still evens on black, you'll say, well, I'll bet on red then because I know that the odds are 50-50, but I can return 5-1.
Yeah.
And the idea being that if you continue to bet on that red over a long period of time, your margin will be how you beat the bookmakers or beat the house. And even if it lands on black 20 times in a row, your 21st bet is still going to be betting on black because you know that the odds are in your favor. So I created this system and was doing it for myself. The bookmakers caught on to this. They're not legally allowed to ban you because you're not doing anything illegal. Yeah. But what they do is they tag you as a high risk punter.
High risk to their profit margin.
Indeed. It's funny how it works. And they max bet you to 1p, essentially meaning that you cannot place bets anymore.
And is this one bookmaker or is this
No, this happened across the whole board over probably a 18-month period of me jumping around and trying to spread these bets. Yeah. But clearly I could see that I had a system that was good and could make money. So the logical next step was, okay, well, I should sell this information to other people who can then use it and do exactly the same thing as I was doing. So what I did is I set a business up. I marketed it all on Twitter at the time, now X, and started to build a channel and started to build a following. I was really transparent with everyone, these bets I was placing to gather interest, recording everything I was doing on a day-to-day basis, and then built a really loyal following. Again, it doesn't seem that large now, but it was about 20,000 followers. This is probably back in probably 2012. And that was the light bulb moment I talked about at the start, where I realized that actually leveraging a community of people who really care about something and really care about what you're talking about can be really, really valuable. And owning that distribution channel is incredibly powerful as well, because then you can talk to other people, you can bring brands into that conversation, and actually the community that you've grown care about you and what you're saying. This was before people were talking about influencer marketing, but that's definitely what it was. And I took that idea and I kept scaling it up and going, okay, well, if I know that Twitter has, at the time, probably 200 million daily active users, but I know Facebook's over there on 2 billion daily active users, I need to start going to these other platforms, taking the same approach that I'm doing of building channels and building communities, and doing this on a much larger scale. And that's where Komi was born in 2016.
That's fascinating. That's the best ever origin story I've heard from a creator business. And so what was the channel called, by the way? Is it still in existence? Do you still keep it going? Or?
It is still in existence, but I still keep it under wraps that nobody knows what it was me. It's still there. The website is still there. And I have dreams of retiring somewhere down the line and going back and doing that, because it was my first love, I guess you could say.
Okay. So you started with Komi, and what was the idea then? Obviously, you said your experience was very much around influencer marketing and building communities around content. How did that translate to where Komi Group is today?
So the idea was very much, again, okay, let's take our time here, and I wanted to build pages and brands that people really cared about, because I'd seen that those were the ones that brands wanted to be involved with. So it was a case of how do we come to the market? Because again, this was after some big players had large media brands, both established and newer players on Facebook and on YouTube. So it was very much a case of, if I want this to be successful, we're going to have to look at this in a different way to other people. So we went about growing brand. It was all about heads down. We didn't really speak to anyone for a few years. And again, in social, and if you want to own the audience in the distribution channel, you have to build something that people really care about to have any leverage whatsoever. So we started to build. We started with a channel on Facebook called It's Gone Viral, which is now IGV, and we started to really dig into different niches. So we did gaming, we did animals, we did lifestyle, we did female pages, we did male pages, and it was about building the voice, and building leverage with the platforms as well. And
did you self-fund that right at the beginning? Was that from your success from the horse racing approach that basically enabled you to seed fund it, if you like?
Yeah, so we were I bootstrapped the business up until 2022. And it was, again, I'm a massive believer of, I love building businesses, and I love the idea that you can self-fund and the profits that you are making put back into the business to make educated bets, essentially, on long-term things. And that's very much where Komi has gone over the last almost 10 years. It's reinvesting and seeing an opportunity, building out what that revenue stream looks like. And we've gone from where we started with that one Facebook page, where we were trying poorly to sell in branded content, to where we are now, where we've got over 100 different revenue streams and diversification from that starting point has always been on my mind, and I think is something which when we launched the creator side of the business, it was the being able to relate to the fear and the anxiety that people don't often talk about of having a business with one revenue stream. And if you're living on a platform somewhere where you don't own that platform, that's a scary thought. And so diversification and growing out both our business, but then also growing out creators, through having done it myself, I think helps. And I can see that struggle, and I'd like to think that I could understand some of it as well.
Yeah, well, many people were burnt by Facebook changing their monetization approach a few years ago, weren't they? I mean, huge businesses were relying on income coming from Facebook, and that sort of changed literally overnight with no warning.
Yeah.
So hence why it's spreading your bets, right? So tell us about Komi then. You talked about the creator side of the business, but you also have a licensing side, you also have a channel side, and so tell us about your channels first and foremost, because you've got a number of them, and tell us how many there are, because I know how many you've got, but talk us through that, and maybe what verticals are in, and how you monetize them.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got over 40 of our own brands within Komi. We've either grown them ourselves or we've made certain strategic acquisitions over the years as well. And we currently produce, the latest number was almost 40,000 pieces of content a year. We currently doing about 4.5 billion views every month on our own channels. And I mean, it's all underpinned. And again, going back to my early points around data, I'm obsessed with data and obsessed with how you can access that and be able to use that to inform decisions and do things differently to other people. That's always been massively my ethos of how do we, if the market looks like this, how are we going to play slightly outside it? Because that's our strategic advantage over everyone else. And understanding the data and building out our data systems, again, from the get-go, and building a culture of people who also want to have that creativity and I guess that entrepreneurial spirit of being able to dig into that and understand how to take that and grow channels faster and better than other people, I think is really, really important.
Yeah.
And then, so within the publishing arm of the business, which is where all of our own channels sit, we started to look at how do we start to license pieces of everyday content of people walking down the street and filming something interesting. We had a great video this week of a girl being at her graduation, and her stepdad was there, and she'd taken her stepdad's name and was going up to graduate, and they announced it, and this incredible moment of this daughter coming down and hugging her stepdad, and the incredible moment. I think being able to license pieces of content from these everyday situations and be able to use across our channels and tell people stories was the really important next step for the business to be able to do, which is where we launched Arc Media, which is our licensing division. So we licensed almost 100,000 pieces of content over the last 6 years. And again, it's part of that ecosystem, I guess you could say, and relationship between our own channels and being able to access the content on the internet that's there and is such an integral pillar of what we all go on and love to watch every day.
Yeah. So are any of your channels, are they all faceless channels? Are they all channels that feature amazing different content? Because it sounds like you have a really deep catalogue of a content to license, and you use those and build your channels based upon those.
Yeah, very much so. And so again, the publisher angle being that they aren't one person who runs or is the face of that channel.
Yeah.
They are channels that people can love and engage with across different niches, whether that be gaming or animals or the ones I've mentioned before. But when it comes to creators and helping creators do a very similar thing, the crossover is very obvious in terms of running a publisher brand and running a creator who wants to be successful from these monetization revenue streams on across the different platforms.
So you have all your channels. You said 40 or so individual channels, and are those channel brands also all multi-platform in their own right as well?
So they're not all multi-platform. I would probably say about 70% of them are. Sometimes, again, the way that we've grown, it made sense for them to be multi-channel. Sometimes we were just focusing on different areas and different platforms at the time of where we wanted to get to. So it's a real mix.
And you also have a talent management side, and also a side of the business that helps creators build and monetize their channels. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we launched Komi Talent about 2.5 years ago, and it was through helping a number of creators create actual content. So we have a studios team who film, produce, edit content for creators. And we were helping a number of creators. And a lot of the conversations I was having with them at the time was, it's great that you can help us with our Facebook and our YouTube monetization, creating content which understands what the platforms and what the algorithms actually want. This is great, but I'm currently using a talent management business over here who are running my branded content partnerships, and I'm not as happy with them because of X, Y, and Z. And a lot of that comes from talent management being quite an older industry that had grown from talent, from TV, from film, but actually social media talent and creators and influencers, as we call them, are actually very different and need different things from a talent management business.
That's interesting. So you're saying that the legacy talent management companies perhaps had some practices or approaches that weren't really suitable or appropriate for creators?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that ranges from a whole host of things. But I think underpinning that would be, if you want knowledge and advice and help with as a creator and influencer on your channel, it's really important that you're speaking to someone who understands those platforms, those algorithms, those issues that we're seeing every day, and being able to help them with that sort of stuff. So that was the bit that underpinned it, and our leverage across both our licensing and our publishing teams. But actually there was more to it than that. And it was the conversations that I was having with creators and influencers 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, that again, I've never worked for anyone else. So my, the way I look at any problem is, well, what makes sense and what's the right way to do something, as opposed to, well, people always do it that way, so it must be the right way. And it was just simple things like having creators, influencers really bought in to the business just seems like everybody wins in that situation. So we will regularly have influencers in our office in Manchester, just because they want to hang out with some other creators and interested people and who are doing different things. We do weekly one-to-ones with all of our creators. Again, we know this space can be really lonely and is not easy. And so it's partly the well-being side, but it's also partly the strategic. We want to build a channel here as an influencer that, well, we need to work out what the plans for this are going to be. We need to build you a content plan. We need to discuss what's working, what's not working. How can we talk to the publishing teams who are seeing this new thing on Instagram that's going over and be able to link that in. And then there was also the payment side of things as well, which again, when I looked at the space and saw that creators were waiting 60, 90 days for payments because there was a talent agency in the middle that was holding on to the money with 30-day payment terms, and there was a brand on the other side of that who were paying the talent agency, who were on 30-day, maybe 60-day terms. So when we launched, it was, okay, well, if we're working and truly partners with creators and influencers, what we will do is we'll have 1 week payment terms with our influencers, but not when the brand pays us, but when the deal is struck and the work is done. So we actually pay out all of our creators on the talent management side before we're ever paid from the brands.
Yeah.
Because we're backing ourselves and we're backing our influencers and our creators in the work that they're doing and our relationships with the brands. And touch wood, to this day, we haven't been in a dispute with a brand over that. And actually that cash flow issue is one of the most popular things when we're speaking to creators and influencers that they're able to unlock, which is great.
Yeah, and obviously you're right identifying the key pain points, which is payment terms, which is well-being, and we'll maybe talk about that a little bit later, about well-being of creators and burnout and all the other issues that they face. So it's very smart that you've actually looking at that as your key differentiator in terms of what you can deliver to them. So let's talk about the platforms. What platforms are you seeing? I mean, obviously YouTube is the key for monetization, but not the only one. I mean, what's your outlook in terms of growth going forward in terms of the platforms, and which are you really backing?
It's an interesting conversation because they all have their pros and cons. And I think some of them are underleveraged. I think, again, if you look at the cold hard numbers, if you want the biggest platform which reaches the highest daily active users, and it surprises a lot of people, it's actually Facebook which does that. It skews an older demographic.
Yeah, people have forgotten about Facebook a little bit, haven't they?
Yeah, and it's a bit of an echo chamber, right, of the people that we speak to, and we tend to be on the younger side of people who don't use Facebook as much. But actually, it's still the most popular social platform there is. So it's something we certainly don't sleep on. And again, I've been saying for the last 12 months when people ask me what is the going to be the next platform to come along, obviously we had TikTok probably is the most recent breaking into the mainstream, doing more than 1 billion daily active users, and that's when it really started going. But if I was to place a bet, I would actually place a bet on Facebook being the next biggest platform, which sounds really strange, but I actually think things work in trends and popularity, and it's the thing people always say, where a platform is cool until your mum's on it. So that was Facebook, then that was Instagram, and then that was TikTok. But the mums are coming for TikTok as well. So I actually think if you're looking at which platform can leverage a new audience to come in, I would actually back Facebook being able to entice the younger audiences in that sort of 10 to 16, in maybe not now, maybe in a few years.
Yeah.
And again,
but it's an untapped opportunity for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if you want to look at the ad spend of these platforms, and a lot of it comes down to what are the systems and the advertising platforms, or systems on these platforms, I should say, which are the most advanced, then Facebook is the most advanced. It gives the best ROI for advertisers to spend their money on. So it makes sense that actually those tools have been built out more than, say, a TikTok, which hasn't been around as long. And actually, they haven't been able to build out their advertising software so that advertisers can spend £1 on TikTok and double that. Whereas Facebook advertisers know they can do that. So Facebook is up there, and it's an underutilized one, and I think it has more potential to be used. YouTube, I think, is a great platform. Again, it's not far behind Facebook, but actually, if you were to look at how long does an average user spend on these platforms, which is a really important point. Okay, great that they're on there, but are they quickly going on Marketplace on Facebook to do something quickly, but actually not engage with the video content that's on there? YouTube is almost 50 minutes, I think it is, whereas Facebook's 30 minutes. And TikTok is clearly has been on this meteoric rise over the last couple of years. and he's very popular, but it's having a few setbacks over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, and they're kind of stuttering in their growth.
There's a lot of uncertainty around it still, isn't there, as a platform in terms of in the US and ownership issues and
there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's probably stopping brands building out a 12-month campaign strategy, not knowing that, well, maybe I won't be able to do that in 2 months. So actually, my lower risk bet here is to spend my money with Google and YouTube or Meta. But I think if YouTube is probably the platform, I think, if you weigh everything up in terms of popularity, if you take on how people are using that platform, people are now watching it whilst they have their tea on TVs. I was looking with one of our creators last week, and out of all his views, I was as surprised when he showed me this. 54% of his views were coming from TV, and 20% from desktop, and mobile was actually much smaller.
Wow! And what sort of creator was he then?
A large YouTube reactionary creator,
right?
But I think that's probably a broad trend that we're seeing across YouTube, that people, particularly younger audiences, like to have it on TVs. And actually, your TikTok is a feed scroller where people are waiting for that one and watching it for a much shorter period of time than YouTube, where you can actually build audiences and go much deeper, because the average watch times of pieces of content on YouTube are a lot longer. You'll see that with podcasts, and if you try and put a podcast, 30-minute podcast on TikTok, your watch time's probably not going to be too exciting. Yeah. Whereas YouTube, people are going to watch something. It's very much a destination platform as opposed to sort of a highway platform. You're going through and looking for something rather than going out and searching for that. Yeah. So YouTube's a great place for long form content where people can be really purposeful to go and look. And
they're bringing in that episodic interface as well, aren't they? In terms of it's going to start to look a little bit like Netflix, I think, for a lot.
Again,
of
that makes loads of sense, right? Where when you see the TV habits, it starts to become more like a TV network. I think that makes lots of sense.
Yeah. So talking about creators and how they're making money off platform, we're seeing a whole number of creators start to, obviously you've got brand deals, but also there's creators starting to create their own real world businesses. And that's something that's really on the rise. Where do you see the future of creator-led businesses heading?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's certainly over the last couple of years, we've seen some big successes of the offline businesses that creators have grown, which has been great to sort of watch and witness and see the growth there. I think my opinion on those is they're absolutely great, and diversification, I'm a massive proponent of that being incredibly important. I think I would say there's a potential pitfall of seeing that as the golden thing to get to, but it's very, very different from a content-led business that you've built and you've created a channel and an audience that really cares. That's superb, and I think that's great. But I think at the moment the successes we're seeing tend to be the mega influencers who have huge audiences that they can then leverage into these offline businesses. Because
they're often licensing deals, aren't they? They're deals that
yeah, exactly. And again, the product building products, again, Mr. Beast with his snackables, like that's a great business, and he's got a really strong mission there. But it's almost got the tendency to look really exciting, but actually not see all the pain underneath that it takes to grow an offline business to that size. So
especially if you're not in the chocolate market, if you've never started to think about making chocolate before, there's a whole world of pain there waiting for you, right? Which is for any new business outside content creation, whether it's any type of business whatsoever, it has all of that, all those struggles that you have to go through, right?
And I think there's, again, that's not me saying that they are bad. That's saying that there are so many more levels and layers of diversification that you can do before you have to take that leap, if it's something that you want to do. So platform diversification, channel diversification, these are opportunities to diversify your income as a creator, which are easier and more in the ballpark of being able to. We had one just last week where we launched a new channel for a large YouTuber, and it's grown to 100,000 subscribers in its first week. And this is about diversifying away from the channel that we're doing to have a secondary revenue stream. And again, that's one of many different things. And then you can go cross-platform, and how have you got different things? Have you got your licensing covered? Have you got your brand deals on a recurring basis? Like, there's so many different things. And then when you get to okay, I've got this great idea and I think my audience really care about this one product. How can I either launch by myself or partner with someone who's done this before and knows the pain underneath to be able to help create something? I think that's great. And I would love to encourage creators to go do that. But I guess it's just my word of warning of being like, make sure that you've covered off everything and being able to grow your business underneath, because we're not all Mr. Beasts yet.
Yeah. Go into it with your eyes open. And I suppose, again, coming back to the betting analogy, it's about where you're placing your bets, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So last question, Andrew, before we come on to Story of the Week and Hero of the Week and get in the bin. But in the years, nearly 10 years now since you started Komi Group, what's the biggest lesson? What's the hardest lesson that you've learned, and perhaps the best lesson that you've learned that you could perhaps give businesses who are working in the digital content space?
Yeah. I mean, for myself, again, having done this for 10 years, I can look at the younger Andrew now and say I would have done things differently. But clearly, perhaps if I hadn't done those, I might have not learned what that I now know. But I think the idea that when I started, I thought that I had to do everything and dive into every new idea and make sure I was helping lead that one project over here and this one project over here. But actually being able to hire great people over the last couple of years has made me realize actually it's about making the most of what you can do yourself, and how do you again leverage the bits that I'm really good at and actually build a great team around me to be able to do the bits that maybe I'm not so good at, or just help manage and be able to deliver for all these different clients that we now have. I think is really important. And again, I love building businesses. I love problem solving. I love seeing a new idea and being able to obsess about that one thing over everything else for weeks or months or however long it takes to build out a solution. But actually, again, probably 3 years ago, we'd gone off in loads of different directions, doing lots of good things, but actually needed to focus on, okay, what are we actually building here at Komi? And that's a digital media business that is building the most engaged audiences in the world. How do we do that and build an ecosystem of tools around it to be able to do that one thing really, really well? And that's across our publishers and our creators and our licensees. But that is essentially what we're doing. And
you've got your own bespoke analytics tools, haven't you, that
Yes.
that you use internally, which obviously helps with that.
Yeah, and I think again, back to that data point, the really unique bit about working in this space is the amount of data that you can access yourself without having to go scrape APIs, which might turn off tomorrow and ruin your business. But actually, every view that you get on a social platform, the the analytics that actually sit underneath that, and I'm not talking just the analytics that you see on a dashboard, but actually when you go into the data that you can access from these platforms, every view has hundreds of data points on all kinds of different things underneath that. And what we've done over the last 2 years is, how do we create a data stack using that proprietary database that we've got to be able to go, okay, these views that are coming in on a daily basis, whether that be on our publishing brands or whether that be on our creators, how do we learn from those and see the trends on algorithms, see what's changing on platforms in real time, that can actually mean that we can drive strategy and drive what type of content we do, how long is it going to be, how are people's viewing habits now changing from what they were last week because Instagram have changed something else, and it's being able to react in that live dynamic way to change what we're actually doing. That's what the data bit has been getting us to.
Constant iteration, basically.
Yes, exactly, and be able to see and analyze different bits of audience behaviors is always fascinated me, but being able to do that in a dashboard now that we have and play around with things is a really exciting development.
And that's your proprietary tool? Do you license that out to anybody?
No,
no,
we don't. We like to keep that one to ourselves.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah. One last question as well. I'm going to squeeze in. As you were talking, clearly made me think about AI, and obviously AI wasn't really around, certainly not in the way that it is now in terms of tools when you started your business. How are you utilizing that? Presumably it's going to be a massive part of your business going forward.
And I think that there's two parts to this, because there's the how are we leveraging it and creating tools to be able to take advantage of AI, but then there's also we did a presentation for the whole team last week, and it was, how do we see AI just on a purely, a lot of people there's lots of headlines around taking jobs, etc. How do we see that, and then how are we going to use that as a business? I think my fundamental belief is, I don't think AI is going to replace businesses, but I do think that businesses that use AI will replace businesses that don't. And I think people who use AI will be more successful than the people who don't use AI. And the way we say AI and technology at Komi is, how do we give great people great tools to be able to do great work? And that means if you're doing something repetitive that could be replaced by AI, that then means that you can spend more time being creative and focusing on the quality of something which needs a human to be able to do. So if you look at the tools that we're creating, it's all about that bit there in terms of, how do we take away the mundane bits from your job?
Scale and efficiency, essentially. That's what it's bringing to your business.
Exactly. And it's scale and efficiency that means that the potential is larger, the quality of work is better, and we can do more of that stuff. It's not about efficiency, which means that it'll then therefore take people's jobs. And I think that's the beauty. And again, I love that side of things. I love seeing the new technology that's coming out, which, as you said, 10 years ago you could only dream of doing the things that you can now do at a click of a button. It's incredible.
Yeah. Andrew, fantastic. Thank you for telling us about Komi Group. And now it's time for Story of the Week, where my guests get to highlight the content industry news story that's caught their eye in the past 7 days. Andrew, what's your story of the week?
So I guess mine's not a particularly happy one, but it was the Guardian came out this week with a new piece of research on creators and burnout in creators. And this one, when I read this earlier this week, it really stood out to me, because I see this in the day-to-day at Komi, and I see the risks and the pitfalls. And it was, so the Guardian did this piece of research along with another agency of identifying that creators, 5 out of 10 say that they have felt burnout whilst being a creator, and incredibly 4 out of 10 creators have felt burnout to the point where they considered stopping that entirely. And I think, again, to my early point, the being a creator can be really lonely. and the people and the tools and the connections that you can make out there, I think are really, really important. And even if that comes down to some of our creators, if they're filming with our studios team, of just coming down and being able to work with other people of like-minded people who want to create content, I think is really important.
Yeah.
We've got a wellbeing officer at Komi as well. And again, part of the launch of the Komi talent was that every creator that we brought on would have access to that wellbeing officer as well. And 95% of influencers and creators that we have at Komi have used our wellbeing officer.
Right.
And again, I think that's really, really important.
Well, the average creator doesn't have any formal workplace support, do they?
Yeah.
It's difficult for them to, work-life balance. They're chasing the algorithm, right?
Yeah.
And that's, it was interesting because there's another piece of, there's another campaign that YouTube announced a couple of days ago that they want to, they're really calling for the government for creators to be recognised, really, and as valuable contributors to content industry. It kind of sits a bit strangely with me, that, because they're creating the algorithm. The algorithm is rewarding creators for the more and more content that you produce, so they can serve more and more ads against it. So that doesn't quite sit right to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think it's hard for creators because I think just being able to talk about it with people who maybe understand, because it's a very hard conversation to speak to Joe Blogs to say, this is what I'm up against. I have this overriding anxiety and stress to create content at the cadence that I need to be able to stick up with these platforms. Usually the response from people is, oh, woe is me, oh, poor creator, poor influencer who has to create content for a living.
You're not out there digging roads. So
exactly.
That's the reaction.
And I think that adds to the problem. That actually it's the being able to speak about those problems and those anxieties with people who want to listen and understand that is probably a big part of that problem.
Yeah.
And the anxiety that means that, I can't speak about this because I almost kind of feel a bit of ashamed to be able to do this for a living as well. So again, I think as a lot of these things, the more people talk about, I think the better. And finding the communities of people, again, getting creators together in spaces or events, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well done for recognizing that issue and leading into it and providing those benefits for your clients. How about Hero of the Week? Who are you going to nominate as your Hero of the Week?
Hero of the Week. I think it has to go to every person who picks up their phone and films something random or that looks like nothing's happening and then catches the best piece of content ever on the internet. Because if people didn't do that, the pillars of the community and the internet would not exist. So yeah, every person who's picking up their phone and filming something random, I think would be my Hero of the Week.
Yeah. My favourite one was the Mount Etna eruption a couple of weeks ago, and if you saw that, and there's this pyroclastic flow that came down the side of the mountain, which was extraordinary footage, and just literally somebody with their mobile phone, which is that's probably worth a lot of money, that video now, if they're licensing it in the right way.
Maybe we've got it licensed. Who
Maybe
knows?
you have. All right. Okay. And who or what are you telling to get in the bin finally, Andrew?
Get in the bin. I would say TikTok videos with great TikTok videos, great content with text and emojis all over the front of them, and then the people who upload content and then don't save the original file as well, because it's heartbreaking to have a great piece of content, but not be able to use it and tell that person's story because it's got a load of text over the front of it.
Oh, right. Okay. So busy content
Yes.
on TikTok. Okay.
Yeah.
That can get in the bin.
Yeah.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming on TellyCast. It's been fascinating having you on. I could talk for a lot longer and delve into all sorts of things around the Komi Group, which would sound really fascinating. But for now, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Justin.
Well, that's about it for this week's show. TellyCast was produced by Spirit Studios and recorded in London. We'll be back next week with another show. Until then, stay safe.